As YouTube reviewers race forward to release their latest flood of Hazbin Hotel thrashings, I'm excited to finally present my opinion as well. It's taken me a minute to fully wrap my head around all the independent parts of the new season and how they make me feel. I've also been using this time to get a grip on what the masses liked about the new season and what they didn't like about it, watching fellow reviewers, scrolling fan theories on Twitter, writing tailplay yaoi fanfic, normal fan engagement stuff. Anyway, I'd say it's been a productive processing period, and now I'm finally ready to get into it. What did Season 2 of Hazbin give us beyond a killer audio reaction for the next time someone really needs to use the bathroom?
I can't hold it much longer.
Let's find out. You might be wondering, who is this you speak of, gatekeeping mongoose from YouTube? Surely you can't mean me, as I am the most media literate person on the internet, and any takes you have, I can make them 10 times better and more eloquently. Fuck you, I'll watch your stupid gay hell show if I want to. Allow me to address the elephant in the room. I don't really believe in generalizing against audiences and trying to put Hazbin Hotel in a box of who is and isn't allowed to watch it. If I had it my way, people would just chill out and watch the shows they like, and we could leave it at that. But unfortunately, controversy drives engagement, and modern fandom is contorted from a happy, creative place for people to interact with their favorite media into a cesspool of infighting and Twitter fighting and cockfighting or something. Look, I think we're all losing the thread here. As Season 2 was airing, Prime Video dropped the recording of the Hazbin Hotel live on Broadway, an exclusive one-night event. In essence, this was a bombastic showcase of everyone's favorite songs, put on by the cast and crew of the show for an auditorium of lucky fans, all dressed in their elaborate Hazbin Hotel cosplays, screaming excitedly and singing along. And it was honestly so fun to watch, just as a recording. I can only imagine what it must have felt like to spectate in person. Watching this absurd event, I had a realization that this is what Hazbin Hotel is all about, and possibly fandom as a whole. Shameless, cringe, fun. If you think Hazbin Hotel is a poorly written, gratuitously pandering, inconsistent slop show with absolutely no merit, or that Hazbin Hotel fans are unable to engage with media critically or recognize when something is truly quality, then this part of the message is directed at you.
Who, me?
That's right, baby!
Come here. Get a little closer. Yeah, that's right. Ready? This show is not for you. If you don't like it, don't watch it. It's really that simple. Hazbin Hotel live on Broadway proved to me that this cultural phenomenon is about shameless artistic cringe and free fun. People sharing in the community of like-minded individuals, celebrating all the queer kids, theater kids, creatives, weirdos, etc., who love tropes and musical numbers and cartoons. At the end of the production, Erica Henningsen, the voice actress of Charlie, pulled Vivzie Pop up to address the audience and bask in the amazing success and unfiltered love her story was receiving from true fans. And it was so moving. She was on the verge of tears. To me, an aspiring creative, that was something very moving to observe. And while you can find reasons to criticize Vivienne Medrano if you turn over enough stones, as is probably true for any living person on Earth, it doesn't take away from the impressive nature of her feat, which was pulling 2 hit shows from the ground up with her creative vision, ambition, and sheer power of will, sparking a super successful career and an endless future of possibility. All moving sentiments that resonate through the show's themes, characters, and message.
So we're going to do it right now. We're going to take a deep breath all together. And we're going to soak this night in. Viv, when you started creating these characters and these stories, did you ever imagine that it would look something like this one day?
No. Looking at you guys, you're all dressed as these characters that I've been drawing, for so long, and with the whole day without anything like this.
Fucking queen, Viv!
That's fucking right!
That's pretty cool if you ask me. She totally deserved this moment.
That's nice, Nifty. Good job.
Yes. Good job, Nifty.
Now, enough about shit tangentially related to the show and its new season. Let's talk about the substance. Some people were irked by my last Hazbin video because I did not include any critique in my analysis. This is something I did consciously, not because I think the show is above criticism, but because at the time I was making the video, I felt there were already enough people unapologetically shitting on this piece of media, therefore there was no need for me to pile on to the vitriol, especially because I really like the show. However, for this season's review, I feel compelled to give a more objective analysis, if only because I think this season deserves more rounded discourse. I've already rewatched it like 12 times, so I think it's safe to say at large I liked it a lot. But I'm still curious to read all your opinions in the comments about why you think certain plot points worked or didn't work. This season deserves to be talked about. So let's take it point by controversial point.
And be ready for some breaking news tonight.
This is a sentiment I'm starting to see more of the longer the completed Season 2 simmers among its ungrateful audience. Talking about this fairly is going to be a bit challenging for me, given I am an unapologetic Vox fan. I have been from the start, and Season 2 only made me love him more. Undoubtedly, for me, the massive Vox presence in Season 2 was a huge highlight. I love everything about his character. His design, and the fact that the voice actor Christian Borle is clearly having the time of his life playing this freaky little TV man. Even without my fangirl bias, I think it's safe to praise the general quality of the character. Vivziepop herself stated that she's proud of Vox as a character and how he has developed, taking shape beyond a superficial villain and becoming an entertaining and even sympathetic character despite the atrocities he commits along the way. And now, it seems like there is this little echo developing on the critiquer side of things, staking the bold claim that Season 2 would have flopped if it hadn't been for Vox's charisma carrying the plot. And here is where I gotta draw my line. Firstly, why are we trying to detangle the villain from the rest of the plot? That does not make sense to me, as it is in essence saying that the plot is only good because of the plot. Like, that's kind of the point, is it not? Vox was only able to shine the way he did because of the ensemble cast building him up, including his conflicted allies, his primary rival, and the team of protagonists combating him. I actually find myself feeling more sympathetic with opposing arguments that there was maybe too much Vox this season.
This is my
Always wanted to do that.
I know, sacrilegious for a Vox stan to say. And don't get me wrong, I personally was eating up every second of his screen time, but I can see where people who feel this way are coming from, given that he sang a majority of the musical numbers and dominated much of the screen time. Beyond that, the Vox carried Season 2 talk is reminding me a lot of a sentiment following the release of Season 1, that Sir Pentious was the only enjoyable character in the show. Did anyone else catch the talk back in the day? They were also the people mad that Pentious allegedly got killed off, even with the very obvious redemption tease at the very end. It's a sentiment I find especially ironic, considering this take seems to have faded following the release of Season 2, replaced with the idea that now actually Vox is the only redeeming part of the show, despite Penn still being a primary component of the plot, and it was similar voices who were the ones saying that Vox was an unnecessary addition. Isn't it funny what happens when you actually give a story a chance to marinate? The character that previously seemed unnecessary or distracting develops purpose as more episodes are added. Perhaps this is a sentiment we could try and extend to other characters as we wait for the release of future episodes. Anyway, what do I know? I'm just a stupid Hazbin Hotel fan, right? I couldn't possibly understand anything related to media literacy.
Are you fucking kidding me? You are very rude.
Look at you go. Yada, 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 yada.
You are very homophobic, Miss Killjoy, and I do
I'm not homophobic. I just hate gay people.
Now, on to the next hot topic I'd like to address. Another point circulating that has taken me quite some processing to finally come to a conclusion on is regarding our infamous protagonist Charlie Morningstar. Mainly the question of whether Charlie was worse this season. Look, I'll be honest with you all. When I was first experiencing Season 2, I was similarly disappointed with some of Charlie's choices and how they affected the overarching plot. After Season 1, I was quite enamored with Charlie, finding her a compassionate lead who was charming and relatable despite her flaws, which made it all the harder to see her crash out so miserably in Season 2. But here is where I will activate my trap card. Just because it was hard to watch, does that make the writing of her character worse? I know what you're going to say, naysayers. It's not the fact that she's making mistakes that's bad. It's the fact that she doesn't seem to be learning from the lessons made in past episodes. And for a while, I actually conformed to the same opinion, feeling that Charlie just wasn't this bad last season, and she has turned into something rather unlikable. And while this may still be valid for some, I have recontextualized this perspective after spending some time chewing on the plot, And also, after seeing her demon out while wearing the Danny Doobad suit. Hey, Charlie. Hang on, stop distracting me, I'm focusing again. Let's address the fact that not only is Charlie clearly going through it after the events of last season, but also, if the narrative did not address the fact that these events affected Charlie negatively, there would be similarly large armies of people bashing her for not caring enough about the losses last season, and how this too is bad writing. Then, we have this very explicit conversation with Lucifer, where Charlie laments the fact that if she does not snap out of her psychological trauma soon, people are going to get the wrong idea about her and her morals, basically stressing out about the very thing that has happened to many people's perception of Charlie as a character. And then, when Charlie does fail to snap out of her funk, her actions do lead to chaos and trouble, with very real consequences, both in her ambitions and her interpersonal relationships. Beyond that, she is absolutely held accountable by the narrative for what she does in this time period.
Charlie, you are hurting the hotel.
To me, that sounds like everything you can ask for from a negative character arc. And by the way, negative character arcs are awesome. And you're gonna have to bear with me as I put on my woke hat for just a minute, but I have to wonder why people might be less forgiving of Charlie in this context than some of the other iconic examples of such protagonists. If you thought I was gonna get off my soapbox there, you are sorely mistaken, because I fucking have more to say on fucking Charlie Morningstar. I'd be remiss not to bring up the real-life parallels between Charlie's clumsy fumble with media interaction and Vivzie Pop's own struggle in this facet. Most fans are at least slightly aware that Vivienne Medrano has, at times, struggled with keeping her online posting, I don't know what the right word is, because I don't want to sound condescending or like I know Ms. Pop personally, and I also don't know what the rules are for interacting with the fandoms of your own show. But let's just say sometimes the things she says in the context of her fandom has been known to spark some controversy. In interviews after the release of Season 2, she explained that Charlie's struggle is reflective of her own experiences navigating that very tricky sphere, and I think it's kind of cool to incorporate that experience into the show, offering some context on her own perspective. Beyond that, I do find it a bit relatable myself. Heavens knows it can be so difficult not responding to certain comments. And I'll admit, sometimes I let the demons win. Let that be a warning to you, rage baiters getting ready to leave your comments under this video. When you stare into the abyss also stares into you. Anyway, what brings Charlie's character journey to completion for me this season, making it actually kind of peak, is the fact that Charlie ends up paralleling Vox quite a bit in her personality and actions. And that is so juicy. It immediately makes me forgive Charlie for doing things I did not want her to do. I felt so smart picking up on this fact, and then it later being confirmed by Vivzie in an interview, but as soon as I saw Vox's lame-ass crayon drawings with rainbows in them, I was like, hang on, I've seen this somewhere before. So let me run you guys through this quickly, because it's one of my favorite dynamics brought by Season 2. Vox and Charlie are both leaders of their own right. They are both ambitious, they both have big dreams that are considered outrageous and unrealistic by their associates. They are determined to achieve them despite that, often getting carried away and experiencing tunnel vision that can steamroll their allies and loved ones. It all boils down to some truths you can say that describe both of them despite what your gut may want you to think. For example, it's probably a lot easier to call Vox selfish with confidence than Charlie, despite the quality existing in both of them. Same goes for calling out Charlie and Vox's idealism. It doesn't seem like it should be true to call Vox an idealist, but it is. It's actually kind of cute how much of a dreamer and an optimist he is. The subversion of expectations and parallels across the season's main villain and the story's heroine is super neat, not to mention the fact that both of them will probably be dealing with and learning from their behaviors in the next season.
Good booze, nobody wanting nothing from me, and a song sung by a lovely broad. Here's to you, baby. Angel!
Speaking of negative character journeys, I'd like to take a minute to talk about Angel Dust's arc in Season 2. As a fan favorite and a sort of secondary protagonist of the show, I will complain a tiny bit that it would have been nice to see a little more of him this season. But also, it somehow felt appropriate with what they were cooking between the mind control plot and his heartbreaking conclusion. I find it very interesting that at the start of the season, Angel Dust seems to be doing really well. which was nice but also immediately rang some alarm bells because to me that indicated the piece wouldn't last. If he just stayed happy and optimistic for the rest of the show's run, I'm pretty sure everyone would turn on Angel the way they turn on Shaggy for being too healthy or whatever. Anyway, long story short, Angel Dust suffers a pretty bad relapse this season, not only losing confidence in his ability to achieve redemption, but also by the end quitting on happiness altogether by telling his closest friends to forget about him and returning to live with his abuser full-time. Devastating, yes, but so very compelling. It's no secret that abuse is a cyclical experience, and that journeys of self-actualization and improvement do not follow a linear trajectory. From the start, Angel has been shown as a victim of abuse and moreover someone who suffers from addiction. He's someone using substance to cope with his meager existence. His relapse is very relevant to both these qualities of his story. The subtle development of this downfall worked well in my opinion. It happens in the background of all of Charlie's shitstorm and epic overlord clashes, while Angel's primary support becomes distracted with other priorities, like Charlie skipping therapy, Cherry mourning Penchus, and Husk getting wrapped up in Alastor's shit. He is left to his own devices, and ends up getting so manipulated by Vox and the other Vees, he no longer feels he can trust himself, and probably that he doesn't deserve happiness at all. He's a sinner in hell after all. And just to be clear, because I know that if you don't express yourself as literally as possible on the internet, people are going to come away with the worst interpretation of your words. I'm not saying that it is Husk's or Cherry's or Charlie's fault that Angel ends up in the place he does this season. I am saying, however, that in the context of all that, it makes a lot of sense to me, and I respect that direction for his character. Of course, all with the hope and expectation that he can still pull himself out of this hole in future episodes. See? Good writing after all.
Knock, knock, Rosie, my dear. Alastor's here.
Alastor. I walked away from this season loving Alastor even more, and he might be in close competition as my new favorite character along with Vox. That said, I had a lot of trouble swallowing some of his biggest plot developments this season.
Last thing I want to do is spread misinformation.
But fun stuff first. Can I just talk about the fact that he was clearly on his period all season? He was so bitchy from start to finish, and I love it. I love that he seems to be pissy about the fact that he injured himself for the gang, and that, in my gratuitous interpretation of his actions, he is salty that no one seems to care about this fact, all while making literally zero effort to communicate the extent of his injury and discontent, instead snapping pettily at everyone and being a total bitch. Loved it. Also, Alastor was seriously humanized this season, which I wasn't sure if I was going to enjoy for a character like him, whose greatest appeal upon introduction was the mystery and unclear motivation. Not only did we see his human backstory, learn the specifics of his soul contract, and see him downright miserable throughout the events of this season, but we also saw what were we talking about? We saw his largely public humiliation courtesy of Vox, and after being this big, scary, overpowered mystery box last season, that was a huge shift, and I'm not mad about it. I loved seeing his vulnerability and raw anger with Rosie, then nitpicking the flashback between him and Vox, and trying to disentangle his brutal rejection from the possibly implied discomfort caused in him by such a confession. I know I'm not the only one digging deeper into this scene and trying to read between the lines of how Alastor actually felt about what happened. I think there are a range of valid interpretations of what is going on beneath the surface here. Then, the abrupt switch to seeing him trapped with this same guy who's shed his nice guy persona entirely, instead having a sadistic time testing the limits of that smile, which Alastor fully repays in turn by ruthlessly picking on all of Vox's insecurities and sabotaging his relationship with his new friends and lover. Anyway, the parts I was less into were the parts revolving around his soul contract with Rosie. See, I was one of those people who was a hard believer that Lilith owned Alastor's soul. To me, that made a lot of sense and provided good context for why he'd be hanging around the hotel in Charlie. However, learning it was Rosie made me feel a little weird. Mainly it was the fact that he and Rosie seemed like such good buddies in season 1, and knowing how prideful Alastor is, I had trouble accepting he'd be so chummy with the person who owned his soul. But also in review of their interactions, I guess it can be spun that they were both just acting out a role for Charlie's sake. Anyway, I kind of made my peace with that part, at least, if only because I think Rosie is a queen and I would love to see more of her character. The part I'm not moving on from so easily is the way Alastor gets out of his soul contract. For one thing, I was looking forward to seeing the soul slave Alastor in action a bit more. He was so cute as her puppet on a string, and really all we got from that dynamic in an earnest way was the first "don't you forget." Mainly though, I don't buy that Alastor manipulated the terms of the contract enough to break the deal. I'm sorry, but if Vox still got pwned by Alastor, scratch that, is still injured Alastor in a 1v1 fight after becoming the so-called most powerful sinner in hell, then he is not the most powerful sinner in hell, because Alastor still proved to be stronger than him, right? So Rosie's part of the deal still held up. I also don't buy the implication that Charlie saying it made it so, even if there was some believing manifested it power at play with his approval ratings, since Charlie is not even the ruler of hell, she's just the princess. And no one even seems to take her seriously, so yeah, I still have some beef with these particular plot points. But I will say that the Vox contract finale made up for it in my book, because this part was just so fucking funny.
You swore not to lay your hands on Charlie, but you just couldn't help yourself, could you? You fucking creep. You're always doing that, and I hate it!
I'm never going to be over Alastor calling Vox a fucking creep in that tone. Yeah, I can't be mad, to be honest, because everything this season gave us between Alastor and Vox had me kicking my feet.
We are above petty bullshit.
Well, maybe people should start sucking less.
Or more.
Whew, I'm telling you, writing this script was hell because every time I thought I'd reach some kind of conclusion to keep it on the shorter side, I thought of something new to yap about. And as a villain simp, I'm contractually obligated to bring up the other two Vees because everyone's falling over themselves to pat Vox's butt and sleeping on the bad bitches holding him up. I'm gonna say something really bold here and make the claim that actually, Valentino is objectively the best character in the whole show. He is so funny and multifaceted that I could just sing praises for him all day. Joel Perez is a king, improvising probably the funniest line all season.
Anyone else got shit to say?
I'm from fucking Florida!
Ow!
And I also fucking knew people were gonna be pissed when they saw this scene play out.
When have I ever hit him? You're obsessed with me.
I literally gasped and cackled with my hand over my mouth the first time I watched this, because I knew in advance what the reactions were gonna be. And of course, now it's everyone's new favorite prop to talk about how inconsistently Hazbin treats the subject of abuse, but I think it fits right in just as smoothly as everything else. It shows the abuse from the abuser's perspective. And beyond that, Vox recorded it, not Valentino. Based on his giggle in this line delivery here,
It's not funny anymore.
He thinks angel dust is lower than filth, which is why he can even justify making a montage of Val beating on him and laughing about it. This, juxtaposed with the hints that Valentino actually misses and cares about angel dust in his own way, is complicated, and people don't like that. How dare Valentino be humanized and express his sensitive side instead of playing the same superficial black and white abuser character we expect him to be? It's almost as if abusers are people too, and maybe that's why it's so hard for victims to leave them behind. Here's the part where I have to make sure I'm not being misunderstood. In no way am I justifying Valentino's behavior or implying his relationship with Angel Dust is a healthy one, or even that you can't be uncomfortable by this humor. I'm just commenting on the fact that it was a bold choice to show us the other side of this brutal character, and from my perspective, it really paid off, successfully making the story deeper. Now, regarding Velvet, I loved her presence in this season too. I'm glad she was just as active in the evil scheme as her male counterparts. Highlights for Velvet included seeing her respective friendships with Vox and Valentino, as well as her super cool witch powers and aesthetic. I guess what I have to say about Vel is I had a realization. People will sometimes ask what her role is in the Vees. Having a clear concept of what Vox and Val are, while feeling like she is less important or somehow a less evil wheel on this corrupt tricycle, despite being as similarly flashy, vicious, and entertaining as her two partners. And no, I'm not about to accuse everyone of sexism again, even though I could. I was thinking about it and actually had kind of a breakthrough regarding why Velvet seems to be falling a bit short compared to the other two Vees. I think it's because she lacks a direct rival in the narrative. I'd like to take a second to compare what I'm talking about to another piece of popular media that I highly enjoy. The anime and manga Hunter x Hunter by Yoshihiro Togashi. In Hunter x Hunter, the narrative clearly sets up direct foils for almost all the primary cast, where Gon has Hisoka, Killua has Illumi, and Kurapika has Chrollo. This is built up so well and causes an extreme narrative anticipation between all these sets respectively, leading to some very satisfying confrontations. And yet, Leorio, the fourth alleged primary cast member, has no direct rival, which almost immediately demotes his narrative importance because there's nothing building up for him. And I feel similarly for Velvet, as there is no primary cast member as of now who directly opposes her the way Vox has his rivalry with Alastor and Angel Dust has his beef with Valentino. Which is a shame in both Velvet and Leorio's case, because both are lovely characters who deserve more gripping storylines. But who knows, both these pieces of media are unfinished, so maybe we will get the satisfaction in the future. Fingers crossed.
Oh, that's a magical song. Tom, did you get all that gay shit?
Holy fuck, we did it! The power of friendship is strong within us!
This is going to be my final main point in the review of Season 2 of Hazbin Hotel. I've seen quite a bit of negative feedback revolving around the power of friendship saves the day conclusion, and how everyone is collectively cringing at the way they did a Care Bear stare or something to stop the weapon of mass destruction. To you who have a problem with the Care Bear stare tactic, I have one question. Why are you watching Care Bears? Because I personally have never heard of the Care Bear stare outside of that one line in the Ultimate Showdown, and therefore I had no reason to be angry about it. Jokes aside, I have to say, maybe modern audiences are just too cynical. I find the power of friendship as a trope to be quite touching, and moreover, not at all out of place in a show that emphasizes the importance of trust and love and relying on other people, etc., etc. A lot of grittier, more cultured media still relies on the power of friendship as a final ex machina, so I think it's honestly fine and thematically appropriate for Hazbin to rely on. And yet, let me be the one to point out that while the denizens of hell were able to come together and use teamwork and song to stop the greater threat of Vox's bisexual, narcissistic ego collapse, the power of friendship was not able to save everything. For instance, Angel Dust. Despite the heavy-handed foreshadowing that he would be saved by the power of friendship, he cuts ties with the people who love him most and goes back to his abuser. Interesting. Then Alastor, who all season hid his wounds like some feral animal and insidiously convinced Fox that there are no friends in hell, ends up bleeding, injured, and alone in the shadows, relying on cruel tricks and bluffs to get himself some leverage, and presumably remains injured still despite Rosie being coerced into fixing his staff. By the way, this was a bluff, right? Do we think this is a bluff? Oh my god, I am not ready for Alastor's villain arc. Anyway, what I'm trying to say here is not everyone is profiting from the fuzzy warmth of the power of friendship. Shouldn't that be enough to make you cynics happy, huh? Or perhaps you were too busy being salty to notice that not everyone was saved. My last note on the power of friendship, to tie in all the moving parts of my ramble, is that it warms me so much that the other two Vees did not leave Vox behind after his suicidal spiral and decapitation. They're mad at him and smearing his reputation probably, but they still took him with them, and I think that is genuinely so touching. Haha, take that, Alastor. It's almost as if the thing you tried to convince Vox of as his biggest weakness is actually one of his biggest strengths.
We're finished. I'm not kidding. Get the fuck out of my building. Get the fuck out of my building! Snip, snip, snip.
I think maybe my final sentiment about Hazbin would be, people need to try to be more patient with the plot. Instead of trying to catch plot holes and imply cringe, maybe just trust the narrative to get you there and let plotlines grow and develop naturally. Don't get mad when plotlines move in a direction that you didn't expect. Stuff like that. I agree to an extent with some of the other criticisms going around, like the fact that it's weird the angels couldn't just bring Serpentius down with them and prove redemption works the easy way. But it's not a big enough issue to make me rage quit the show. After all, the Eagles didn't fly the Fellowship of the Ring all the way to Mount Doom either, and Lord of the Rings is still considered a classic by most cultured and classy individuals. Plotlines revolving around characters like Lute and Alastor have been confirmed to be building up to something greater. Meanwhile, the Lilith tease 2 seasons in a row was explained as a hiccup because the writers weren't sure what they would be allowed to do next season, and wanted to leave room for the Lilith story in case that was what they had to write about. I don't see any reason to be angry at the show for building up Lilith's influence twice in a row. After all, we did get more glimpses of her this season than the last season, and they included Charlie's continuous efforts to reach her all the way through the story. Other highlights from Season 2 include the funny and enriching background details, such as Charlie's presentation having a click here to add subtitle, and some of the paintings in Vox's office being signed by Valentino. Honorable mentions to the stunning visuals and animation, the relevance of media manipulation and its insidious nature as a theme, and to Patrick's stunt presence. I'm a huge Fall Out Boy fan, and was waiting all season for the Fall Out Boy-esque ballad from Abel, and totally lost my mind when it finally happened in the finale. The music as a whole this season was so good. There's not one song that I don't actively jam to. Sarah's confession is so astonishingly beautiful, it made me cry. There, I admitted it. Happy? Oh, and Gravity fucks so hard, oh my god. Okay, I think I'm done. Now it's your turn. Please leave me comments about if you agree or disagree with some of my conclusions. I'd love to hear what you guys most liked about this season, and what you're looking forward to seeing next season. Personally, I'm manifesting something between a depressed era Vox post his public disgrace, possibly paving the way for some redemption foreshadowed by that one scene with Charlie. Maybe? Also, I'm calling it now. Lute is gonna fall from heaven for rocking the boat too much, then bump into Adam in hell, who has respawned as a sinner the way Pentious respawned as an angel in heaven. Boom. I know, I'm a genius. Okay, on that note, I'd say we can finally wrap it up. And don't forget, if you find yourself watching Hazbin Hotel and not liking some element of the show, before you make some bold accusation about this internationally successful show that has earned itself a very strong and loyal fan base, ask yourself, is this show really for me? Because there is a chance it isn't, so maybe you should go watch The Boys or One Piece or whatever the hell it is people consider quality these days. Or maybe keep watching, I don't know, the more views Daddy Amazon collects, the more they will invest into this product, so scratch everything I just said, actually. Keep up the good work. As for the rest of you, be strong Hazbin fans, don't let haters stop you from enjoying it, and let's manifest a speedy production for the next season. Thanks for watching!